Who are Kurds? What PKK disbanding itself would mean for Turkey's Erdogan explained. The Kurdistan Workers' Party PKK, a Kurdish militant group, announced a decision on Monday to disband as part of a new initiative with Turkey, after 40 years of insurgency. The decision by the PKK was announced by the Firat news agency, a media outlet close to the group. It comes days after it convened a party congress in northern Iraq. In February, PKK leader Abdullah Öcalan, who has been in jail on an island near Istanbul since 1999, urged his group to convene a congress and formally decide to disband, marking a crucial step towards ending the decades-long conflict that has claimed tens of thousands of lives since the 1980s. The group is banned as a terrorist group in Turkey, the EU, UK, and US. Nanan, the group, which was formed in the late 1970s, based on the Marxist-Leninist ideology, targeted the Turkish government in 1984, calling for an independent Kurdish state within Turkey. The conflict reached a peak in the mid-1990s, when thousands of villages were destroyed in the largely Kurdish southeast and east of Turkey. Hundreds of thousands of Kurds fled to cities in other parts of the country. In the 1990s, the PKK rolled back on its demands for an independent state, calling instead for more autonomy for the Kurds, but continued to fight. In 2013, a ceasefire was agreed between PKK rebels and Turkish government. In July 2015, the ceasefire collapsed after suicide bombing blamed on Islamic State killed 33 young activists in the Kurdish town of Surak, near the Syrian border. The Turkish government subsequently launched what it called a synchronized war on terror against the PKK and IS. After a botched July 2016 coup attempt against President Recep Tayyip Erdogan by mutinous Turkish officers, PKK was targeted in a bigger Turkish security crackdown. The PKK is struggling to establish its hold in Iraq and Syria, where Turkey is trying to assert its influence on a battlefield with many rival forces. The PKK is listed as a terrorist organization by Turkey, the EU, and US. Earlier this year, Iraq also announced a ban on the PKK. Nanan Kurds inhabit in the mountainous region of Turkey, Syria, Iraq, and Armenia. There are about 30 million Kurds living in the Middle East, primarily in Iran, Iraq, Syria, and Turkey, and the Kurds comprise nearly 1/5 of Turkey's population of 79 million. But they have never obtained a permanent nation state. The Kurds are considered one of the indigenous peoples of the Mesopotamian plains and the highlands in southeastern Turkey, northeastern Syria, northern Iraq, northwestern Iran, and southwestern Armenia. The Kurds unite through race, culture and language, but they don't have a standard dialect. They also adhere to a number of different religions and creeds, although the majority are Sunni Muslims. In the early 20th century, many Kurds began to consider the creation of a homeland generally referred to as Kurdistan. After World War I and the defeat of the Ottoman Empire, the victorious Western Allies made provision for a Kurdish state in the 1920 Treaty of Sèvres, as per BBC. However, the Treaty of Lausanne, which set the boundaries for modern Turkey, made no provision for the creation of a separate Kurdistan, and left many Kurds with minority status in their respective countries. Nanan Kurds have often been denied political representation, economic resources, and cultural freedoms compared to a majority of Turkish population. Since 1990, 5 Kurdish parties have been closed by courts in Turkey. The closure of political parties in Turkey often coincides with the criminalization of Kurdish political leaders. Selahattin Demirtas, a former presidential candidate who gained seats in the 2015 elections and denied Erdogan's party a parliamentary majority for the first time since 2002, as per The Conversation. Demirtas was detained on terrorism charges in November 2016, and since then he has been held in high-security prison near the Greek border. In May 2023, Erdogan stated that Demirtas would not be released under his governance, labeling him a terrorist. In January 2016, over 2,000 academics from Turkey and abroad signed a petition calling for peace in Kurdish regions. The petition received support from prominent figures like American professor Noam Chomsky and philosopher Judith Butler. However, many of the signatories within Turkey were dismissed and prosecuted. Some were even imprisoned. After the ceasefire between PKK and Turkey broke in 2015, the fight entered one of its deadliest chapters in nearly 4 decades. Between 2015 and 2017, the violence devastated communities in some urban centers of Turkey's majority Kurdish southeast and struck into the heart of the country's largest metropolitan centers. From 2017 onward, fighting moved into rural areas of Turkey's southeast. As the Turkish military pushed more militants out of Turkey, by 2019 fighting shifted to northern Iraq and northern Syria. From 2019 onward, Turkey has increasingly relied on its air power, including armed drones, to push back against the PKK and its affiliates. Since July 2015, the militant attacks and clashes with the PKK have killed at least 1,491 security force members, including 1,055 soldiers, 304 police officers, and 132 village guards paramilitaries comprised by ethnic Kurds armed and funded by the Turkish state, and at least 639 civilians and 226 individuals of unknown affiliation, according to the International Crisis Group, an independent organization working to prevent wars and shape policies. The average age of members of the state security forces killed since July 2015 is 28.6, as per the data. Nan Erdogan needs the support of pro-Kurdish political parties if he wants to run again in Turkey's next presidential election, due in 2028. The decision to disband PKK was an important step towards a terror-free Turkey, and the process would be monitored by state institutions, a spokesperson for President Erdogan's AK party said, according to Reuters. The move could earn Erdogan the Kurdish support he needs for constitutional changes to give the Turkish leader, who has been in power for more than 20 years, another run at the presidency. As per the New York Times, Erdogan openly backed peace negotiations with the Kurds a decade ago before they broke down with fierce fighting in Kurdish cities. Due to this and other uncertainties, Erdogan has remained slightly aloof from the peace overtures this time. Erdogan had been a strong supporter of the rebel groups fighting against the regime of Bashar al-Assad, and he still enjoys close ties with those groups now that they are in government. One of Turkey's concerns is to curb interference from other countries into Syria, including Israel, which has advanced troops into parts of southern Syria and made overtures to the Syrian Kurds. Swipe left for next video. According to Winthrop Rogers from the international affairs think tank Chatham House, it would take a major democratic transition by Turkey to accommodate demands from Kurdish political parties. There has been some goodwill from some Turkish leaders in recent months, Rogers said, which allowed the PKK disbandment to play out, as quoted by the BBC. In a lot of ways, the ball is in Turkey's court. Latest blogs.